For as long as vampires have stalked the night, cults have been central to their existence. In the legends of the first city, vampires were said to be worshipped as gods by the mortal inhabitants. In the modern nights, those who slept awakened once again, commanding their progeny through generations of blood. Zealots gather around the cup, the flame, and the altar, worshipping these icons of darkness and power. Cults of the Blood Gods pulls back the shroud on these religious cults and more in the 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade. To find out my thoughts on this new sourcebook, roll 2d10. Cults of the Blood Gods is an upcoming release for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, scheduled for 2021. Funded via Kickstarter in January of 2020, the project raised over $150,000 on a goal of $30,000. Obviously, this project has some eager fans waiting to sink their fangs into it. No doubt the recent changes to the necromantic Giovanni clan helped propel the Kickstarter to significant heights. This tome was developed by Matthew Dawkins, with writing by Dawkins and all of the writers you see on the screen here. Cults of the Blood Gods is the first sourcebook for V5 utterly dedicated to vampiric cults in the modern world of darkness. While books dealing with vampiric religion and heretical beliefs exist in previous editions, none have been presented in this level of detail. At 274 pages, Cults of the Blood Gods is a substantial addition to your 5th edition game. This is consistent with the production strategy of the entire line since its resurrection in 2018. Gone are the days of rapid release 90-page splat books for $20 a pop. Now, the releases for Vampire the Masquerade are large, substantial hardcover affairs that are packed with invaluable information for all interested parties. Cults of the Blood Gods is split into 8 chapters. Most chapters focus on a different aspect of religious worship among modern kindred. Additionally, about 1/3 of the book details the newly reformed / assembled / resurrected clan, the Hecata. The chapters break down like this. We have the delightfully macabre fiction provided by Eddie Webb and Rachel Wilkinson that harkens back to those old, classic Giovanni clan books. We're treated to an introduction, a sort of how to use this book, consistent with the game line's history. One quote that I thoroughly enjoyed in this intro is this telling passage. Domains in the modern nights, much as in the Dark Ages, exist as islands in the dark, each with their own kindred hierarchy, society, and culture. This is an integral passage regarding the World of Darkness's presentation in the modern era. In Chapter 1, Rise of the Methuselah Cult, we are presented with many in-character letters, journal entries, recording transcripts, and more. These passages give us perspectives on unlife within the various cults, encounters with cults by outsiders, the perception of various Second Inquisition forces facing vampiric cults, the reaction of the Justicars of the Camarilla, and more. Chapter 2, Kindred Religions, provides detail on a vast array of religious cults that operate in vampiric communities, as well as major players and leaders that allow cults to function. Old favorites like the Bahari and the Church of Caine, not the Sabbat, and new cults like the Ashfinders and Archangels are given treatment in this chapter. Additionally, new rituals, discipline powers, convictions, merits, etc. are found here. Chapter 3, The Cult of Death and Undeath, chronicles the assemblage of the various clans and bloodlines that form the Hecata. The Giovanni, Cappadocians, Harbingers, Simeti, and others present their perspective on the family reunion, the parties involved, and the mysteries that remain. Mortal cults are the subject of Chapter 4. Vampires are charismatic, manipulative creatures that feed upon the living to exist. Many use their powers gathering herds around religious fervor and intense personality. Some of the more interesting are profiled here. For storytellers and players wanting to construct cults of their own, Chapter 5 details concepts and strategies in their chronicles. This chapter provides a primer on cult creation in the world of darkness, from the necessary foundations to the deeply hidden rites and rituals. Chapter 6 presents the Hecata as a playable clan for Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. History, archetypes, compulsions, and discipline rules are provided here, plus all the decaying, necrotic, and entropic oblivion powers your death cult could want. New bloodlines and lore sheets, and new rules for their use are outlined in Chapter 7. Want to play a Dunsern or a Nagaraja? Want to be a part of the Lamia or the Cult of Michael and his beautiful descendants? It's all here. Chapter 8, Sticks and Bones, provides storytellers and players with a pre-generated story and all the info needed for a multi-session chronicle. So that's the book in a very large nutshell. Now for my thoughts. Also be aware some spoilers are ahead. Some things to know about me that may pepper my opinions about this book. First, I love the Giovanni. Outside of the Bruja, which is my first love and always will be, Giovanni is my favorite clan. Additionally, the whole host of necromantic bloodlines have always been an interest to me. Second, I do not like the Thin Blood or Duskborn vampires. I don't like Thin Blood alchemy at all, and I don't use these powers in games I run. Sorry, I just don't. First, the intro story. I gotta say, it frickin' hooked me. The Giovanni have always appealed to me because they're bastards. This story and other chapters in this book really seem to capture the Giovanni's voice. Next, the first chapter presents a really immersive collection of in-game material. I appreciate the attention to detail, the different perspectives offered, and the communication between the characters presented here. Onyx Path did something similar in Chicago by Night, and it works just as well in this book. The religions presented in Chapter 2 are hit or miss for me. Mostly hit, but some are a big miss for my tastes. Let me levy my obvious first criticism on the Ashfinders. As I said earlier, I don't like Thin Bloods. I don't get into any of the alchemy they use, and I haven't really found any redeeming qualities about them since the launch of V5. Now, I try as hard as possible to have an open mind about these things and be open to change in the world of darkness. That said, I just think the Ashfinders are trying to be too many things. The social media influencing, ash drug abusing, diablerie cult that traffics the remains of dead vampires from the Ghana War.
That's not so good, Al.
Just seems like too much. That makes me kind of sad also, considering Dr. Mortius is one of my favorite characters from Milwaukee by Night. Frankly, I just don't like how his story played out, and I could live without the cult. That could all be just my bias, but I think it's a real stumbling point of the book. The Church of Caine. This was a big surprise for me. One of my apprehensions when I first heard about this cult's return was I thought it would be a rebranded, more palatable version of the Sabbat. I was immediately dismissive of the idea and filed it away in my do not care pile. But I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised by the cult and how different it is from the Sabbat. I feel like the cult's presentation gives it real heft and weight, and I understand how this cult functions in the same domain as the Camarilla, the Church of Set. It's good to see the Setites up to their old games. I like the differences presented between the ministry's anarchic motivations and the more orthodox Church of Set. The cult-clan dynamic might be a little bit different than you remember from past editions. Cleopatrans are a minor cult of Nosferatu who worship Yima, a supposed shield of their clan founder. All religious connotations aside, it's a cult of Cleopatras. Nosferatu that go out of their way to hide their hideousness. Just not a fan. I really enjoyed the Mithric Mysteries, the Nephilim, and the One True Way. For the better part of a year now, I've been grousing about the Hecata. I was convinced that mashing together all the necromantic bloodlines and clans was just a ploy to narrow the playing field. And all part of some elaborate conspiracy to make the Giovanni more palatable for video game consumption.
Crumble, crumble, green marble, crumble, crumble.
But yeah, now that I've read this chapter, I don't think that anymore. I was wrong. This chapter is well done, and it really made me feel like this is a logical evolution of the Clan of Death. Everything that is included in the story makes perfect sense. I get it. I am now on board with the Hecata. So, get over it. My only small criticism is the promise having a 500-year time limit. I don't know about that. Are there similar examples elsewhere in the history of Vampire? Did the Tremere get a time limit? I'm not convinced. This, along with the Hecata character chapter, are excellent additions and updates to the V5 canon. The Mortal Cults and Cult Creation chapters are incredibly useful for storytellers. They provide an abundance of useful material for world building and expanding beyond the game's meta, which, let's be fair, should be the goal of every gaming group. Finally, I'll touch on the chronicle presented at the end of the book. I think that this particular story suffers from the same drawbacks that other module-style chronicles suffer from, in that they're not particularly compelling or complex. And to be totally fair, this story is designed to ease players into the world of cults in a modern vampire setting.
Or so the Germans would have us believe.
And for that, it works. You've got all the things you need to get running: pre-generated characters, SPCs, enough detail about the region's city and politics, but the story itself is just meh at best. Alright, final thoughts. Cults of the Blood Gods is a valuable addition to your table if you're running a Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition Chronicle. It's well written and produced, with tons of incredible artwork by super talented artists. Like the previous material produced by Onyx Path Publishing for V5, such as Chicago by Night, it really seems to capture the essence of the classic World of Darkness. Aside from a few missteps here and there, it's an entertaining read and a worthy addition to your bookshelf. I challenge folks still firmly entrenched in earlier editions of the game to also give it a read. I think rules-specific stuff aside, this book is an excellent update to the metaplot of the World of Darkness. I give Cults of the Blood Gods 4 dots out of 5. Thanks for watching my review. Let me know what you thought, and do the YouTube dance, and like and share and subscribe and all that. And I'll see you all next week. And that's it. And the scrolling stops, so I don't know what it said at the bottom, so. Doodly doo, dum da dum dum dim dum 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 dum. Not the Sabbat. Not the Sabbat. That makes me kind of sad. The Cult of Shalom. Shalom? The Cult of Shalom was another idea. Oh, my ass is killing me. Oh!